Hello everyone, thank you for joining the cycle of webinars, #We Dare to Share. Today I'm going to talk about reading comprehension. Reading comprehension, the next level. I'm Susana Espírito Santo and I'll be your host today. Firstly, I'd like to ask you a question. What is reading? Let's take a look at a couple of examples and find out what it really is. First example. Can you read this text? I believe most of us can't because we aren't familiarized with these symbols and characters. We can't read this text. In the second example, what about this one? Now we can gather letters and produce some sounds. But is it reading? Obviously not, as we don't understand what is written here. So, we can conclude that reading is a process of looking at a series of characters, letters, or symbols and understanding the meaning of it. Some of our students regard the process of reading as a difficult or boring task. What can we do about it? We must bear in mind three important things. First, the handout, worksheet, or text should be visually appealing. Choose a nice, captivating picture, a little teaser or PowerPoint presentation to introduce the text. It is surely more attractive than a text without visual elements. Secondly, choose an interesting text, both for the students and for you. All should be involved in the reading process. Thirdly, choose a reliable text because, as you all know, your students trust you and rely on the information you provide them. In the reading process, there are three equally important stages that we should never skip. The first stage, pre-reading, prepares the atmosphere for the while reading. The second stage, while reading, provides knowledge to the post-reading. And finally, the third stage, post-reading, concludes the study of the topic. So let's get back to the first stage, pre-reading. There are lots of things that you can do to raise your students' curiosity. These strategies should be varied depending on the text. One of the examples is predicting. Look quickly to the text and titles before reading. It may function like a game. Another strategy that you can use is activating students' previous knowledge of experiences. Students talk about previous lessons or personal experiences by giving examples. Another example is analyzing headlines, pictures, captions, etc., because it's a good way to raise the interest of the students. Increasing text interest by sharing personal experience. Sharing is an extraordinary way to learn. Students can share their experiences, and so can the teacher. Another strategy that you can use is asking questions related to the topic to verify the students' knowledge about it. Brainstorming is an excellent exercise to activate required vocabulary or ideas or introduce new vocabulary. It will help to better understand the text. And finally, mind mapping of new vocabulary or ideas. Now, let's talk about the second stage, the while reading stage. There are a number of strategies that can be used and once again must be varied according to the text. One of them is skimming, reading quickly to get the main idea. Reading the first and last paragraphs may be a good advance. Scanning, reading for specific information or reading until you find the information you need. Another strategy is note-taking. Taking notes is a good way to remember key ideas or vocabulary. You can also use guessing. In this stage, guessing means trying to find out the meaning of a sentence or a word. Putting paragraphs, sentences, words in the correct order, it's a good way to relate context, ideas, and decode the text. Another strategy that you can use is finding and correcting mistakes, an exercise for monitoring comprehension or new vocabulary. Telling the author's purpose, we can see if the students fully understood the text. Another strategy that you can apply is giving a title to a text or to sections. It allows creativity within the topic. Another strategy is reinserting sentences in a text, an exercise that requires full knowledge of the text or helps understanding the text better. In addition, we can use word associations and grouping, a great way to memorize vocabulary and expand it. Using affixes, word roots, word chunks. These exercises are used to improve the lexical knowledge. We can also use the dictionary. We all know that the dictionary is a good way to improve and enlarge your lexicon. Another strategy that you can use is monitoring, verifying, and adjusting comprehension of ideas and vocabulary. This type of exercise should be done after vocabulary and comprehension exercises. Its main objective is to contextualize the vocabulary and ideas to new and real situations. And finally, using synonyms, antonyms, phrasal verbs, prepositional verbs, affixation in a new context. It widens the students' vocabulary and makes them use it in a new context. And let's go to the third stage. You can use different strategies in distinct types of text. One of them is asking questions. It can be orally or written. You can ask questions so that the students can develop their ideas, and at the same time, you can monitor if they've understood the text. Summarizing. It can be a bit difficult for the students as they tend to develop ideas better than summarizing them. A summary should be very brief and at the same time contain the main ideas of the text. You can also use mind mapping. Building mind maps in different activities, either orally or written, is a good way to organize ideas. And of course, writing. Writing a summary, a story, or text conclusion, different endings. Needless to say that this type of activity is extremely important. It develops students' creativity, widens lexicon and semantic structures. You can also use another strategy that is putting paragraphs, sentences, words in the correct order. It can be done while reading and post-reading. In this stage, in post-reading, it's like a recall of what was learned. Paraphrasing, an exercise to express the meaning of a sentence, phrase, or word chunk by using other words. And another very important activity or strategy is asking for feedback, asking if the students enjoyed text or if they agree with the author's ideas. You can also make connections, connecting ideas, understanding how ideas in text are related. Debating, discussing different points of view, as we know that the students have different points of view. Another strategy that is very important and fundamental, in my opinion, applying the learned issues in new contexts and situations. Challenge the students to apply the learned issues in a new situation. But in this case, it should be a guided activity. Otherwise, the students will lose themselves in the activity. Another strategy that you can put in practice is comparing perspectives. You can show the class another author's perspective of the topic and let the students compare the different perspectives. You can also retell or ask for them to retell, orally or written, telling the story or the text ideas in the student's own words. This activity helps to activate students' pre-skills. And finally, monitoring and verifying students' comprehension progress. It can be discussed in class or with a subsequent feedback from the teacher. So, what's the next level? Reading is a defining activity as the majority of the students don't appreciate. But it can be interesting and meaningful depending on the strategies, the selection of materials and textbooks. There must always be an articulation of the 3 stages, the pre-reading, while reading, and post-reading, and do not neglect other cultural aspects, since it's fundamental for our students' progress in English. Thank you for being there and joining me. If you have any further questions or if you need any kind of support, don't hesitate to email us at english@portoeditora.pt. Thanks for your precious time.